In music lesson circles, we hear a lot about lessons building confidence. But how exactly does learning music build confidence? On this episode of Rock School Proprietor Podcast, Mandy and I discuss how we talk with parents about building confidence in lessons, addressing stage fright, or maybe even reluctance to join an ensemble or a rock band. Stay tuned. Welcome to Rock School Proprietor Podcast. My name's John Kazicki.
And I'm Mandy York.
And Mandy, we're talking about confidence today. Confidence in music lessons. Now, I've noticed that there's a lot of talk about confidence in the private music lesson world, in music studio world, and I think many parents are even looking to build confidence in their kids, and that's part of the motivation to get them in music lessons.
Yeah.
I've heard from parents, I want my child to build confidence. And I think that resonates with the teachers and the studio owners. And many are even using building confidence in their marketing and their messaging. Have you encountered that in your kind of cruising around the internet?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and we're both parents.
Right?
We want our kids to be confident and to take appropriate risks and, reach their full potential.
Yeah. And I've even seen it used as taglines on websites like "We build confident kids" or "Building confidence through music lessons."
Yeah.
So, I thought we'd talk about it because while, it seems like parents are saying that they want that and music lesson providers are saying, hey, we do that. I also feel like there's not much more below the surface that I'm hearing, about building confidence. So not to say it's not there, but I've got some strong feelings. And in particular, I think it's worth talking about like how we talk to parents about building confidence, because the parents can say like, oh, I want my student to be confident. And we could say like, oh, we're building confidence through music lessons. But then like, okay, how?
Exactly.
How? Like, what is that?
What's the path?
That even mean? So let's see. Let me look at my notes here. Now, conversely, I've also heard in my studio when maybe students are just starting on their instrument and I ask parents, well, what about our rock band program? How do you feel about that? Would you think your child would like playing music with other kids? I've heard confidence used as a reason not to get involved with that. I've heard like, I don't know. I think I want them to build more confidence first.
Before they go for the group experience.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of in my mind, those are like conflicting ideas. And I'm sure we'll sort of get into why.
Yeah.
Now, you were telling me earlier before we started that in your studio, it's more about like socialization.
Yes, that's the word I hear a lot from my young parents.
Yeah.
We're looking to socialize our kids. We want more socialization for our babies and toddlers. And I think that, confidence is a big part of that, right? I think a great way to do that is forming community and socializing, making music, what I do in a multi-age and multi-generational environment. And I do see that. You have to, you got to just get in there. Some parents see their kids as really timid, and this is a lot like your rock school situation, right? Your band situation. They get in and their child is too timid and they think, oh, we're not ready yet. Like, you've got to get in and you have to practice these skills. They're not just going to, suddenly be there one day. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And I think that's where there might be a bit of confusion about what it means to build confidence and what it means to attain knowledge or build your knowledge base.
Yeah.
Now, in your studio, I would guess that the parents are a little less worried about their 8-month-old learning how to read music.
Yes. Yep.
Which is clearly, in my mind, that's like a building knowledge thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they are, they are interested in them maybe learning how to, clap their hands on beat.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. The knowledge that we're building in this age group is yes, the basic music skills of beat, tonality, the socialization piece, language, all of those early childhood things. Yes.
Yes.
That's a piece of it.
So I believe, and like I'll reference an article a little bit later, but I believe that confidence and knowledge are actually two different things, and they can and they do influence one another. And I think it's important, at least for us as music lesson providers, to recognize that and see how the two interact. And this comes from an article that I read on Medium, and I know some people feel like, oh, Medium, it's like, more opinions, but there's more research to kind of back this up as well. So knowledge is the accumulation of facts and insight,
Mm-hmm.
whereas confidence is a person's faith in their own talents and abilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? So again, going back to a parent who is just starting in their child in music lessons, and they're saying like, oh, I want my child to be confident.
Mm-hmm.
Well, does that feel good about their abilities?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that also they want them to learn? I think it's both.
Yes, we want both.
But it's hard to articulate. And then when you think about just the act of learning a musical instrument, it's almost this weird like duality where, yes, there's this intellectual side where you're gathering information and you're understanding like the language of music, but then there's that physical part of actually making the instrument work, right? We're talking about like physical movements and muscle memory, like implementing emotion into the playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're playing with others, simultaneously hearing and analyzing what you're hearing and reacting to it. That's not knowledge. I mean, I think knowledge can support that, but it's more instinctual, and that's more, I think, confidence. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, learning the physical instrument, like I also think of it is obtaining knowledge. It's practicing and learning how to make music through this physical instrument. I think of embouchure or finger positions, proper technique, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting at?
Well, I think it's all of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, learning an instrument is very complex.
Yes.
Because it involves the physical aspects and the intellectual aspects. And that's that intersection between what we're talking about with like the knowledge and how you put that knowledge to work for you, which then like builds confidence. It's very complex, right? And so again, when we're talking about that parent who maybe never played an instrument before, but they're like, oh yeah, I heard if I put my kid in music lessons that I'll build their confidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe, right? But there's so much more to it. So I think because it's so complex, having a way for us to talk to parents about it and sort of like unpackage the whole thing so that we're all on the same page and they've we understand what they're looking for, they understand what we're providing and how it's all going to work, right?
Yeah.
Because what a horrible situation if they're like, oh yeah, I want my kid to be confident, and they're assuming that's 100% just about reading music. And here I am over here like, well, yeah, that's going to be part of it. But first, we're going to get them playing music and we're going to build their confidence with how to use that instrument. We're looking at that situation from two opposite sides. So like both of us with good intentions, but if they're like opposing viewpoints, then like parent might not be happy.
Yes. And if you can effectively communicate this with the parent,
right,
then they're going to be able to support their student better.
Yeah. Right. So I think it is about like understanding that knowledge and confidence are two different things, but they kind of interact and they work in tandem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I referenced that article in Medium. I can link to it in the show notes. It's really short, but what I liked about it was they sort of broke down knowledge and confidence as almost a little formula, right?
Yep.
And I can even see this on a graph, right? Where you've got the X and Y.
Matrix.
The X and Y axis. One axis is knowledge, one is confidence, and how that would work. But so basically there's kind of 4 quadrants.
Yes.
Right? So you've got low knowledge and low confidence is one of them, right? So that means okay, I don't know anything about this thing, and I'm certainly not confident about this thing. That's where a lot of people start music lessons.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you've got low knowledge and high confidence. That could be a starting point too. I've definitely seen kids who come in and they're like, I don't know anything about this instrument, but I'm going to be awesome.
Yep. There's a lot of passion there. There's excitement. I mean, when I think of this, I think of the kindergartner at the talent show, right on stage, belting it out, all wrong, but totally confident.
Love that.
Yes, that's great. We can work with that.
Yep. So then you've got high knowledge, low confidence, right? So that's going to be the kid who might be very reluctant to get on stage. That's where stage fright's going to come into play.
Yes.
Actually, I just saw a kid this week here at the rock school. Oh, the kid he's a guitar player. He's about, I want to say 11, 12 years old. And this may not mean anything to you, Mandy, but in his private lessons, he's working on the guitar solo for Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth. It's hard. Okay, that's what I'm saying. It's a technically challenging guitar solo.
Cool.
He's been in lessons for maybe 6 to 9 months. And I said to him, Michael, when are we going to get you in band? And he's like, I don't know, maybe when I get a little bit better. I was like, oh my God. So that's the epitome of someone who right now, high knowledge, low confidence, right? So there's something going on with him where maybe he's nervous about playing in front of others. Maybe he's nervous about getting in that band room, but I feel like we got to build his confidence.
Yeah. I find that challenging too. That's a challenging student, but really exciting to work with that.
Okay. And then the fourth combination obviously is high knowledge, high confidence. And that's where we want everyone to be.
Yes.
That's the perfect balance, right? So there's a lot of places we could kind of talk to parents about this. But I mean, whether that's at kind of the beginning of the journey or somewhere along the way in the journey, I want to focus on the beginning, right? Number one, and I think we kind of talk about this a lot, is parent education.
Oh yeah, that's what this is.
Yeah, and we're also advocating for the student again, because parents may not always know exactly what the kids need. So plus we've got to understand what the students want, and does that align with what the parents want? That's a tricky one.
Yeah.
So let me reference my notes here. And again, we also have to understand what parents mean when they say confidence, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's wrong to, in those early stages, have that conversation with a parent and say, when they bring up confidence, right? Oh yeah, what is that? What does it mean? What does it look like for you when your child is going to be confident in their instrument?
Yeah.
I say ask.
Yes. Yeah, that is great, because you might be surprised at the answers that you get too. I would say the answers I would give would vary for my 2 children.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, knowing your two children, for
Mhm.
sure one of them is, like, exudes confidence,
Yeah.
and the other one is a little bit more reserved.
Yeah. So I would have different goals for those 2 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, I guess, and if I could, with my more reserved daughter, she's taken lessons and she plays ukulele, and that has built her confidence. She's not getting on stage, she's not in a band,
Mhm.
but she feels so proud of herself.
Yeah.
And she shares what she learns
Yeah.
with family and friends.
Mhm.
So that's different than saying, I want my child to feel confident enough to learn, a set of songs and get up on stage for the rock concert.
Do you think that, I mean, okay, this is kind of like me from the outside psychoanalyzing your child, but do you think she maybe internalizes like that idea, like, okay, I want to attain this knowledge first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to, in my own safe space, practice it
Mm-hmm.
and feel like I've got it down before I let that into the world, and that's how I reach confidence? Do you think that is it?
Probably.
Because I think a lot
Yeah.
of people would think that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I can see that she works like that. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can also, her personality, though, is not one that wants to get on stage.
Sure.
It's just not.
Right.
Which has surprised me throughout the years,
Mhm.
because I've enjoyed performing and have been on stages.
Yeah.
But she has said, like, oh, I think I would really enjoy being on the crew,
Mhm.
for the musical. She wants to
Yeah.
be backstage.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, hey, that's exciting and that's confidence building. She's part of a team and she's doing something.
Yes.
So that's fair.
Right.
Totally
Right.
fair.
Well, and I don't necessarily think that someone who's like, no, I don't want to be on stage, is lacking in confidence. I don't think
Right.
that's necessarily like hard and fast.
No.
That's that's kind of a personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
I guess where I'm coming from related to what I do, and in talking with parents, if someone's like, well, no, they don't want to be on stage, period.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I respect that. But I also think there's a lot to be said for peer-to-peer interactions building confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So for a kid in our rock band program, on a weekly basis, what they're doing is not only are they getting in there and they're playing with other kids, but there's like this immediate comparison,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where they can sort of judge like, okay, are these mistakes that I'm making mistakes that no one else is making? And usually the answer is no, right?
Right. Yeah.
So what they're seeing is like those mistakes and those things that they may be hypercritical about with their own playing, they're seeing everyone else make,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not only that, they're seeing other kids maybe make mistakes that they don't make anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And those little things, those little touch points that they have with other kids throughout their band rehearsals and throughout the weeks before they get on stage, those are all helping to build confidence.
Yeah.
Or even like maybe they make a mistake in rehearsal and no one even hears it because there's an entire band playing.
Yeah.
That's going to build confidence
Mm-hmm.
when you put that in parallel with them making a mistake in a private lesson in front of an instructor who they never see make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So that I think those peer-to-peer interactions are huge for building confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as they move through, the session, the weeks, the months, and they find themselves becoming more comfortable and they're working together, and these are social skills too, right?
Yes.
We do more than just make music here, right?
Right.
That's all going to build their confidence. And I'll touch on my daughter again. So she likes to sing. So she plays ukulele and sings. And so she thought she would join the choir.
Yeah.
And she auditioned for the choir and she got in. And the week before it started, she was like, no, I changed my mind. I'm not going to do it. And I said, hey, you got a spot. You've committed. I want you to try this.
Yeah.
Right? You just have to try it. She totally fell in love. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so from my previous comments, I didn't want didn't want you to think that I didn't think like group music making on the stage was for her.
Sure.
But working, being part of a group on the stage, right? Totally fell in love with it, right?
Yeah.
Making music with a group and being on stage.
Yeah.
She's not going to take a solo, right? She's not going to take a solo, and that's fine. But she is creating with her peers and, making this music on stage.
Right. But
loves it.
If a kid never takes that step, and they perpetually live in that mindset where it's like, oh no, I need more knowledge. I need more knowledge. Then that confidence is never going to improve, right? So
I knew she would regret it.
Yeah. When a kid or a parent is stuck in that mindset of like high knowledge, low confidence, if you don't employ techniques to like build the confidence, then you're always going to have that imbalance. And going back to the idea of like, how do we talk to parents about that? Again, it's two things. It's two things that work together, and we're constantly tweaking it to find that balance, right? So in a private lesson situation, well, that's a way better scenario to focus on the knowledge. Right. So if you've got a student who is maybe like low knowledge, high confidence, okay, well, in private lessons, well, let's focus on like, I hate to say it, but let's focus on the studying a little bit more,
Yeah.
Because that's what private lessons can do. But also, that peer-to-peer learning again, I think there's something to be said for the knowledge that they're going to attain from working with a group, right? Because they're seeing others play instruments that are different than theirs and how they're applying the same knowledge that, like, if I'm talking about a guitar player and he sees a drummer, well, fundamentally, they're both playing rhythms. They're both playing like specific types of notes in terms of length and value. Seeing how they apply these things is also going to build that knowledge base. Flip side, right? If you've got a kid who is maybe like high knowledge, low confidence, like we were talking about, I advocate for more doing, more experiential learning, more playing with peers. That's the ensemble and choir, right? That's band programs, social interactions centered on music.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the guitar player you were talking about, I think that it is really it's a worthwhile cause trying to get him into that group.
Yes.
Right. And so this is where that parent education piece can come in, where you can have that conversation with the parents. Like, he's doing great. He's got this. We would love to see him blossom in one of the groups. And this is how it works. And, if you don't want to take the solo right away, but there's a lot to be learned here. And because I think that once they do get into that group, it just like they'll blossom even more.
Oh, 100%. Right. Because then again, you're absolutely right. You take that kid who has already is like a high knowledge, low confidence kid, and all of a sudden they have an application for that knowledge. Well, then it compounds on itself. Yeah. Right. You see like how quickly you can apply that knowledge and then like learn from doing. Yeah. Fingers crossed for Michael. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I did have that conversation with his mom on Wednesday and said, we've got a spot for him in this summer session. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm really, really hopeful. So again, going back to like how to talk to the parents about this. This is an ongoing thing with I think all parent education, but like small steps, right? This is a long game, what we're doing. And yes, we can focus on like kind of the more studious knowledge building stuff. Yes, we can focus on the application and the like building their confidence and pumping them up, but it's a constant give and take, right? And I think that's where the parents need to hear that how they would go about it, which is I feel like I'm harping on the idea of like the parents who think that it's all knowledge first, and that's what's going to build experience. And I feel like I'm harping on that because I experience that more in my studio.
Okay.
But telling them that like, no, there's two things, right? And we can constantly adjust.
Yeah.
Where the instances where I have the high confidence, low knowledge, that's usually the kid. It's rarely the parent, right?
Yeah.
It's usually the kid that we sort of have to reel them in a little bit. No,
but don't we always say like, I'd rather have too much than too little?
Yeah.
Like, give me too much and I can work with that.
Well, and again, it's I'm going to bring it up again because I just believe in it so strongly in the band rehearsals, right? That kid who comes in there super confident and maybe doesn't know everything that they think they know. Yet. They're going to find out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Again, because that they have other people in that group to look at, and that usually keeps them in check, right?
Yeah.
But I do love those kids.
Yes. So great. So great.
And I think it's worth mentioning these two, again, we want that balance. We want high knowledge, high confidence. But I think it is worth mentioning that these quadrants that are those other two, like the high knowledge, low confidence, or low knowledge, high confidence, we have those terms for them, right? So high knowledge, low confidence, we call that imposter syndrome, I think, right?
Yeah.
So that comes into play. The opposite one where you've got low knowledge but really high confidence. And I certainly wouldn't like label this for the kids, but there's a lot of talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. I think that's where that quadrant is.
Yeah.
Right. And but again, it's all about finding that balance.
Yep.
So,
and I think I want to go back to talking to the parents about this.
Yeah.
An important thing to consider and relay to them is that this is a really safe space, right? Yeah. This is a safe space. We're not going to send your kids out there if they're not ready.
Right.
That's not going to happen. In my world, in my experience, I can maybe relate this to like a choir, directing a choir, right? We're getting close and something's not clicking. We make adjustments, right? As directors, as coaches, we're going to make adjustments so that these kids have a good experience. It is a safe space. That's really important for the parents to know. In my early childhood world, like we mentioned, socialization is the word that I hear a lot. We want to socialize. The kids can, and they might come in first class and their child is really quiet, reserved. Maybe they cry, maybe they're nervous. And then the parent says, this isn't for us. Well, we're not ready yet. We'll be back. But I have to let them know, actually, I don't think that's what they need. I think they need to be here. Yeah. So that they can join our community. One or two classes isn't going to do it. Stick with it. And then, their confidence within the space, the studio space that we have, and their interactions with other kids and their interactions with other adults will grow and bloom. But if you remove them from the space, the learning also ceases.
Right. Right. And I know from our conversations, you will do demo classes, and sometimes you'll have classes that are people who are already familiar with the curriculum, right? And so maybe those brand new people might not want to come to those classes with the people who are really experienced already.
Yeah. And in those cases, I always make a point,
yes,
I like them to come see an existing class because they can see what, this thriving community looks like, what it's supposed to look like. But I'll say, hey, it's totally normal that, Susie behaved this way today.
Right.
I mean, honestly, as an adult, isn't it kind of weird coming into this space and everyone's singing and dancing together? Imagine how Susie feels.
Yeah.
And then I'll point around the room and I'll say, well, see, Billy started before he could walk. And I let them know, these people around you have been here a long time. That's what it takes, right? Don't give up.
We do the same thing when I give tours and have people come in to check out, a band rehearsal. If we're like 2 weeks out from our performance and I give a tour, I do the same thing. I say they're like 4 months in here, right?
Yeah.
So these songs that they're playing, they've been working on these for the last 3 to 4 months. They're about to perform. This is about as good as it's going to be. In 2 weeks from now, when we start a new session, they're all going to be fumbling through everything. They're all going to be starting from beginning. So don't feel intimidated.
Yeah.
It's all a process.
Yeah. Yep. As we build the knowledge and confidence.
Right.
Yep. Together.
Yeah. Yes. So there you go. That's how to talk to parents about confidence.
Safe space too.
Yeah.
Very nurturing, safe spaces here.
Right. Well, I think we're going to wrap that one up and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks, John. Cool.
If you have topic suggestions or questions, please contact us at info@rockschoolproprietor.com. We'd love to hear from you and consider suggestions for the show. We've put together some free resources for teachers and studio owners over at rockschoolproprietor.com. And we've got a private Facebook group, Performance-Based Music Programs and Rock Schools. Please join us over there. On social, I'm at rock.school.proprietor on Instagram and John Kazicki on both LinkedIn and Blue Sky. Your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify are always appreciated. If you enjoyed this show and gained insight from our conversation, then we count that as a win. All we ask in return is that you pay it forward, and please share the show with someone you think needs to hear it.